Welcome back to another Stock Market Open live stream. Take a look at this. We got Tesla in the pre-market getting rejected by the 250 line. A line that's been pretty common for a Tesla to get rejected by. So watch that 250 line. Pretty important here. We've got Netflix that didn't end up crashing. I thought yesterday there was maybe a 20% chance that Netflix would end up tanking, and an 80% chance that it would not. And sure enough, it is up 80 basis points. And we've got IWM that is up about 37, and Qs that are up, which suggests that finally maybe some of that pain could be over. Will it be, though? That's the question. That's going to be what markets determine today. Keep in mind that the last trading day we had led to a negative 47 bipadude decline on the Qs and a 1.93% decline on IWM. So both IWM and the Qs declining yesterday. Question now is, will the pain end? Or is this just the beginning? And if this is just the beginning, then the question becomes, when will the pain end? Nobody really likes the stock market going down, but the stock market going down can sometimes create some opportunities for buying the dip. In fact, if you go to SOXS, you'll take a look at the semiconductor index, which is down 66 basis points. It is the 3x leveraged ETF, though, so it's 3x essentially the performance. AMD being down about 17 basis points. Intel's down about 23. You've got, let's see, where's NVIDIA today? Oh, here it is. NVIDIA's flat. Enphase down 23, Supermicro 28, Apple's up 93. Mind you, Apple's at 226, Coin 199. You've got a cybersecurity situation going on affecting CrowdStrike. Take a look at Crowd, down 11.6% on this, which could also affect Net, which is another cloud. Nope, it doesn't. Net is up 98 basis points. Let's take a listen to the news.
It is being called the largest IT outage in history as this operating defect at CrowdStrike does hobble airlines, banks, mass transit, and municipal services all around the world. Good Friday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with David Faber, Sarah Eisen here at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Coming up this morning, we are going to talk to CrowdStrike's George Kurtz in just a few moments with our own Jim Cramer about the outage and the timeline for fixing it. First, though, we get to Megan Casella this morning with some breaking news. Megan.
Here we go.
Hey, Carl, good morning. The Biden campaign is now holding firm this morning and saying that President Biden is remaining in the race for his re-election. A long new campaign memo out this morning outlines that despite widespread concerns, the party has, quote, no plan for an alternative nominee. The campaign's Battleground States Director acknowledges the uphill battle ahead, saying they have to...
Just because they don't have another nominee doesn't mean Biden's staying in.
Research finding that the voters that the campaign cares about the most are still planning to vote for Biden in November.
Yeah.
I want to read you a full quote here from the memo. It says, quote, Joe Biden has made it more than clear he's in this race and he's in it to win it. Moreover, he's the presumptive nominee. There is no plan for an alternative nominee, and in a few short weeks, Joe Biden will be the official nominee. Now, this sort of internal research and reassurance about a viable path to victory, this is what Democrats have been craving from the campaign, but it's definitely not clear at this point whether this will be enough to fully put to bed all of those calls from Democrats for President Biden to step aside. Just in the last hour, a 25th member of Congress, those Representatives Sean Casten of Illinois, came out asking Biden to bow out. And as of last night, Democrats were saying there was just no path to Biden staying in the race, that we were at the end of the rope here. There was fresh excitement even among donors and strategists about starting to plot out a new path forward. Obviously, this memo now will quiet some of those calls and plans, but the question becomes by just how much and whether President Biden can continue to stay on. So we'll stay on this and see if he can make it through the next few hours, the next few days. Back to you guys.
Megan, yesterday it was Adam Schiff and Senator Tester going public with their efforts to try to get the president to bow out of the race. And there is some reporting this morning that suggests more Democrats may go public next week if the president were to change his mind.
Absolutely. This is becoming almost a fist fight here. What we're hearing is as lawmakers come back into Washington next week, that more and more of them might start to come out publicly. They'll be speaking together again. We can assume there will be more caucus meetings and that sort of thing. But it's almost as if the Biden campaign is sort of daring them to come out publicly. Many Democrats here, out of respect for the president, really wanted a lot of this to stay behind the scenes. They wanted him to get to this decision on his own, to step aside. They thought that would be the best path forward for him, for his legacy, and for the party. They're not getting that, so now it just continues after 3 weeks. We're continuing to have to watch to see if this will get even louder and if he'll ultimately get sort of pushed out of this nomination.
Well, the turmoil itself certainly not helping the re-election efforts, one would imagine, broadly speaking, for the party. Megan, you know, there were reports about former Speaker Nancy Pelosi having a conversation with the president and his key advisor, Mike Donilon, sharing her own insights from polling that she was seeing, saying there was virtually no path, and that down ballot would be a bloodbath as well. Those are my words, not hers. But, you know, what are they seeing? Do you have any sense in terms of what Biden's inner circle sees versus what, for example, the former speaker sees?
The biggest question here has been exactly what polls the Biden inner circle is looking at. This memo starts to sort of hint that they're seeing something that supports it. We'll also hear from campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon this morning. And, you know, a lot of Democrats are hoping that she'll have some of those numbers to share. But the concern has been that they're sort of burying their head in the sand, that they're not looking at the polls that everyone else is looking at. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi has, for her whole career, been very savvy, very good at this, always understanding the political impact of different events on her caucus. So for her to be warning like this, she's really saying, she's telegraphing that she's seeing something that she's worried the campaign, and especially Biden himself, is not seeing. They're trying to argue that this isn't just about you and this White House anymore. This is about the entire party and all of the policy that they've been working for.
I know Dillon's going to be on Morning Joe in a couple of moments. We'll listen for that. Certainly, as Pelosi was quoted as saying, put Donilon on the phone, meaning Mike Donilon, the president's pollster, as to whether or not these polls can be believed. Megan, we'll come back to you later today. Thank you, Megan Casella. Let's get to this massive IT outage impacting businesses.
Yeah, it's just worth mentioning this. How do you want to put it? This idea that the Biden campaign is convinced they are staying in the race is, in my opinion, a big oopsie doopsies. And it's led by campaign managers that just really aren't getting the memo amongst the Democratic community. Right now, the latest thesis is that we're going to have a potentially entirely open primary for the Democratic Party. And essentially what you'll see is an opportunity for Democrats to nominate anyone that delegates desire. In fact, I found it very interesting that someone who is a registered Dem on X yesterday, let me see if I can pull it up here, they posted that the Democratic Party was surveying how people should expect their delegates vote. Here it is. I got pulled by text about the Biden campaign with very specific questions about what I think should happen if Biden steps down. It says, the Democratic National Convention bylaws say that, quote, all delegates to the National Convention pledged to a presidential candidate shall in good conscience reflect the sentiments of those who elected them. What does that mean most to you? The delegates choose the candidate who most reflects voters' desires to see a candidate who can defeat Donald Trump. the delegates, choose whichever candidate has the current lead in the polls, or not sure. In other words, there's this clear opening here of the DNC already surveying its customers, so to speak, of whom they should vote for. So it'll be quite entertaining to see what happens on that Democratic ticket, especially since it seems like the Biden camp is not interested in endorsing another nominee, that being true, but the Biden camp is thinking of stepping down. Anyway, Netflix up 81 basis points here. Tesla down. The Q's barely up 15 basis points. Let's see what happens. Yesterday we had both red on the Q's and red on IWM. Snowflake up, down 15 basis points. AMD's down about 33 basis points. Let's zoom out here for a moment and let's see what we've got in pre-market. Pre-market here we have not a lot of red. CrowdStrike's down 11%. ChargePoint's down 4.5%. Rivian down 2.5%. Open Doors down 1.9%. Flip it around to the positive side, and you've got another 3% in pre-market on Embraer. Holy smokes. Embraer just keeps kicking over $30 here in pre-market. And you've got Redfin up 87 bips. Trade Desk up 1.13, although it's fallen on about 5% in the last few days. Apple's up 75 basis points, though it's down to 225. Fair Isaac and Corp up to 1590. Let's listen to Jimbo here, oddly remote, in a random hotel.
Has a stellar reputation, but we want to know what this will do to it. George, thank you so much for coming on Squawk on the Street.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
All right, George, I know your company very well. Our viewers know it too. How did this happen?
Well, first, Jim, let me start with, I want to personally apologize to every organization, every group, and every person who's been impacted by this. And we understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, nobody cares about your apology. Let's go. What's the solution?
Happened. This was not a code update. This was actually an update of content. And what that means is there's a single file that drives some additional logic on how we look for bad actors. And this logic was pushed out and caused an issue only in the Microsoft environment. Specific to this bug that we had. We identified this very quickly and rolled back this particular content file. Obviously, many organizations are impacted, and many of them are beginning to recover. Many systems can be rebooted, and we've fixed the issue, so the systems are coming up and running. Some systems may not fully recover, and we're working individually with each and every customer to make sure that we can get them up and running and operational. But to be clear, it was not a cyber attack. It wasn't anything related to that. It was a content bug or update that we sent out, that we identified, and we rolled back.
Why do many different users find themselves with the blue circle of death? And how do IT people get in touch with who is down? Because will this take, are we talking hours? Are we talking days?
Well, many of the systems are quickly coming online because they're able to be rebooted, and the problem goes away and is fixed. Some systems are going to take some more time. It could be hours, it could be a bit longer, but we're working with customers that if the system doesn't fully recover, we're working with them on the specific fix for that. So essentially, we are providing guidance through our tech support, through our blogs. Everything that we know, we want to be as transparent as we can and get that out to our customers.
George, this is CrowdStrike we're talking about. Is this Falcon, which is your best program? And I need to know, why did you not phase this in? Why was this done all at once? That seems to be, to me, irresponsible.
Well, it traditionally goes out in a phased approach, and it goes through, what we do is, we've been doing this a long time, testing throughout the life cycle of any of these updates. So it initially went out and we started to see some issues and then pulled it back. So not all of our customers are impacted. Windows and Linux are not impacted. And as soon as we saw this issue, which didn't manifest itself before we obviously sent it out, we rolled it back. And now we're dealing with the impacted systems.
I want to be sure about this. This did or did not get to Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud, because if it did, then but maybe that would explain things, but maybe they're separate.
Well, Azure can run, customers run in Azure, right? And they can run our software there. So if there was a customer that was running in Azure that had our software, it could have been impacted. But that's the extent of what I know specific to the Microsoft piece.
You do not know whether this is impacted.
Clueless.
Well, when you say Azure, it has impacted customers that are running in Azure. That's what I know.
All right. Now, let's talk about liability. You offered an apology. To me, an apology means that therefore you are culpable and therefore you will be sued, maybe perhaps sued by airlines, perhaps sued by networks, perhaps sued by banks. Let's talk about the liability to CrowdStrike and what it could mean.
Well, we have to sort out what that all looks like, Jim. Obviously, from our perspective, and I wanted to jump on the air because it's all about our response and getting our customers back up and running. We'll do the hot wash on how this happened and ensure it doesn't happen again. I think past that, we'll deal with. My goal right now and my mission is to make sure that every customer is back up and running and providing the protection that they've come to rely on from CrowdStrike.
Do I believe that if the ones that have not come online yet perhaps have to be hand fixed, which would stretch every single IT department of everybody who is a client who you sent this update to?
Yeah, well, we're working on the automation. There's many times this can be automated to be fixed. It may take more automation than just simply rebooting the system. And that's what the teams are working on right now with customers. But we've been in contact with.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Obviously been in contact with customers working through the fixes, and many of them again are coming back online.
All right, I'd like to turn this over to my colleagues, David and Carl. Maybe you want to ask George something?
Yeah, Jim, thank you. And George, thanks for being here. Yeah, I mean, to Jim's point, I think right here, I know on the ground here at the New York Stock Exchange, our CNBC computers are going to require somebody apparently to come and actually do some sort of an update manually. So again, this could take some time, couldn't it, for organizations that are going to require somebody to actually manually update code or whatever it may be to be able to successfully reboot.
Yeah, there could be some manual steps involved, and certainly we're looking at ways to be able to automate those manual steps. And depending on the system and the computer brand and the network and how it actually works, it's different in each organization.
It's a Dell.
Many systems can be rebooted, and the fix can be done automatically upon a reboot. Guys,
Just restart your computers, and all the pain will go away.
So we have to work through that, but there is a manual fix for it. That can be employed, and again, we're looking at ways to automate those sort of fixes so that it isn't as manual as going to
Understood. You mentioned obviously some updated content, the issue with the Microsoft environment solely, but to what extent is Microsoft, or in the past, had they perhaps been able to identify something that might cause a problem? I'm just curious to understand if there's any culpability here in terms of Microsoft as a result of what's occurred.
Yeah, we're trying to sort it out on our end, again, exactly the interactions. And as you might imagine, the operating system, and this is what we're talking about, Microsoft operating system, is robust and complex. And if you have a negative interaction based upon our content update, that caused the issue, right? Or can cause the issue. So we've got to do a hot wash and figure out exactly what systems were affected. Was it a particular operating system version or a patch level on a particular system? We don't have all the details on that yet, but that's what we're going through right now.
But George, historically, because you've been on Mad Money multiple times, you have had less than complimentary things to say about Microsoft and cybersecurity. Is that at all impacting your ability to be able to work with Microsoft this morning to get this resolved?
Yeah, we know what the fix is, and we've already rolled that out. So, specific to Microsoft, again, I think both us and Microsoft are focused on customers and customer health, and we want to make sure that customers get up and running.
Let's talk about reputational risk, because again, CNBC, I have to believe that CrowdStrike has a black eye. I'm not sure exactly what that extends to. Have you already had customers that they're fed up and don't understand why you did this?
I think many of the customers understand that it's
mind you, CrowdStrike is still going down after the CEO is trying to play damage control. Down now 12.2%.
requires these content updates, right? And I think what we've seen before and what we see now is that customers are understanding that we are doing everything that we can to get in front of it. This is why I'm on your show, Jim. You know,
of course.
we want to be able to say what we're doing. We want to keep people updated. We want to be as transparent as we can and be front and center with our customers, standing shoulder to shoulder to make sure they get them up and running.
Best practice.
Some things are, you know, out of my control. What I can control is our response.
No, we would appreciate you coming on and being straightforward. But again, we have to understand, I believe that best practices when you roll things out is to do things region by region. So impact is limited. It sounds like you did this all at once, all across the globe.
These are staged in terms of the actual rollout. It doesn't just roll out all to every computer that we have under the globe.
I guess I don't understand how a cybersecurity company can have systems that are what seem to be so antiquated. Like, is cybersecurity just a scam these days? Like, can we just start a random ass cybersecurity company tomorrow?
About this.
Or with AI?
And the scope, it's almost difficult, from McDonald's stores in Japan to 911 emergency services being affected to, of course, we've been talking about the airlines. It feels like we're pretty vulnerable to this sort of thing. I mean, what can we learn about...
Who wants to start a cybersecurity company with me? Email me, jobs@meetkevin.com. Let's start a cybersecurity company.
How vulnerable are we going forward? I know you're supposed to protect against the bad guys, but, and this isn't related to cyber, but now they know how easy it is.
Well, it's an interconnected world. Our customers are still protected from the adversaries, and this is, again, what we do for customers day in and day out for, you know, well beyond the last decade.
We'll call it the Secret Service. Oh, wait, no, we won't do that.
The technology environment and how interconnected the digital world is.
I have to admit, George, I am still confused. Some customers have between 10,000, 50,000 Windows machines. I have to believe it's hard to get there, and I want to know how much needs to be done manually reset versus something you can do at your headquarters.
Well, it depends, Jim, on each customer and how their systems are configured. Some customers, it's simple as a reboot. Other customers, they can automate the reboot process and delete the file that was the offending content file. Others, it may be more manual. So it really depends on each individual system. It depends on...
Go delete the file. Find it and drag it to the trash, sir. That's your customer service.
They have their own operating system and IT configured, and we're working through the various ways to be able to bring them back online.
Okay, now, obviously, we're more concerned about first responders in 9/11. How many of them are back on, and how many do you believe are right now, I'd say, in the dark about what's happening?
Well, we're communicating to our customers through various channels, our blog and our tech support portal, and obviously we're going through the number of impacted customers. I don't have the exact details for you as we go through them, but
I really think these cybersecurity companies don't know what the hell they're doing. Please, if you're in cybersecurity, send me your resume, jobs@meetkevin.com.
being proactive in letting them know what's going on and the potential fixes that are available to them.
This is an $83 billion company. I think we could be 183rd as good as this and be $1 billion company.
And I tried to retrieve a bike to get down here, and that didn't work. I think a lot of people say, my God, if this can happen just from a simple update of content, what in the world could our real adversaries, such as the Chinese, do to us?
Yeah.
How do you answer that?
Well, this is the challenge with cybersecurity. You know, when you look at infrastructure and you look at keeping the bad guys out, I mean, there's incredible capabilities that the Chinese government has, and this is one of the areas, again, why we focus on being able to protect against these sort of attacks. Obviously, It was an issue that we're dealing with, but the sophistication of the adversary shows how vulnerable we are. And it's a function of the interconnected world. You like using your app, you like the speed and ability to get on the subway or call a car service or what have you. Everything is interconnected, everything is connected in the cloud, and this is why these systems need to be protected.
All right, George, I want to be able to try to give you your due here. I want to be saying that this could happen to anyone. This was a glitch. This was not something which says that CrowdStrike should not be counted on when it comes to cybersecurity.
That's right, Jim. Again, we've, I think, built a stellar reputation on protecting customers. I've been at this for a long time. I'm personally involved in making sure that we get every customer up and running. And from my perspective, it's how we respond to this and how we get customers up and running. There are many companies that have issues and bugs and different things that may impact the system.
Sorry, guys. We sent you a software update, and it actually made you cyber insecure. So, my bad. China paid a lot. Sorry.
We've identified it very quickly. We've rolled it back, and now we're bringing.
The stock's like tanking as this guy's yapping. Nobody believes this guy.
Apropos what David and Sarah are asking, I'm struggling with this automation part. If a machine is frozen, George, it will not respond to anything. The automation requires the machine to be alive.
Well, depending on the system, again, Jim, some
Just restart it, bro.
systems can be simply rebooted because they're power cycled. Other systems,
Yeah, bro. Just unplug it, dog.
other systems are virtual, and once the virtual machines are all updated or rebooted, they come back online. So there is a high level of automation that can be done just by simply rebooting the system. Now, there's some systems that may not come back.
Bro, listen. You don't even realize how much AI could be done if you just unplug it and replug it back in.
What should these people do? Just give us the quick of what you can do if you're let's say you're an airline terminal in Delta and you're someone trying to put something through. Can that person do something, or is that person just down?
That person, it's really going to be up to the IT department of the company that has the impact. So that's not something that a consumer can actually fix on their end. And we're working through this issue with the IT department to get things rebooted and deal with the offending content update that was pushed out.
Understood. George Kurtz, CrowdStrike CEO, we greatly appreciate you coming into us and telling it straight about what is happening with this massive outage. Thank you, George.
Yeah. Telling it straight.
You have to run, Jim, but I am curious about your thoughts after what happened with AT&T the other day, the car dealers, which that impact is still ongoing. I wonder if you think this will force some would-be customers to slow down their automation plans in general. I mean, we've seen car dealers go back to pad and paper.
It's a great question, Carl. I don't have to go anywhere. What concerns me is that we have become so digitized, and all we do is get digitized, that maybe we have lost some control to the machines.
Nah, man, you just gotta unplug it and plug it back in, dude. That's the best AI we got. What a joke. Look at the stock just tank. Oh, like short this sucker at the open. It'd be hilarious. Anyway, there goes CrowdStrike. So, yeah, it's down about 1342 basis points. NVIDIA just tanked about 78 basis points. You get about 4 minutes to the open here. Supermicro just lost 792. Not a great number to lose. ARM is kind of floating above any kind of sell-off levels. But don't worry, it's coming. Tesla down about 25 basis points. Netflix actually, I mean, you got to give them credit, up, even though they missed some of their guidance figures. Still up 1.17%. Nice decline in Google search trends, but the 80% likelihood of this company beating came to fruition, and they have impressed markets enough. Anyway, Tesla down about 39 basis points, Snowflake down about 8 basis points, AMD green candling with about 41. Supermicro still down 172. Nvidia is down about 67 basis points. ARM Holdings 2%. Palantir 10 basis points. Intel's down about 43. Enphase down about 13, sitting at about 107.80. Bizarre resting spot for the company, honestly. This is sort of very bizarre. But anywho, all right, we got about 3 minutes to go until the bell. So what do we have? We didn't have data today, so today's a little bit of a boring day. No data. You had American Express, which sees better fiscal year earnings per share. Sees fiscal year revenue up 9 to 11%. And shares that actually rose a little bit. So good for AXP. Let's listen over here and see what they're yapping about regarding Shopify.
Amazon, Google, Meta, Netflix, Spotify, names like that are up 30 to 60% year to date. If you want to make good money from here, you can do that with those stocks. They're compounders, but I'm looking for stocks that have been dislocated, that have traded off year to date, that have had issues that I think are in recovery mode. Shopify is one of those names, and we've had a lot of corrections in that stock.
Yeah, bro, it's just in recovery mode. When you unplug the computer, it's actually not restarting. It's just in recovery mode.
Platforms out there. It's not as good as Amazon.
AI, bro.
The upside, I think, is actually greater.
You and I have been talking about the self-driving cars from Google, Waymo.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me again, why do you think it's such a big deal?
Well, look, I'm in San Francisco, where for about the last 3 weeks, Waymo's now open to the public. And, you get into one of these, and it's an extremely impressive...
Yeah, bro, check out me taking a selfie with the AI.
Uber or a Lyft, you're in there for a minute or two, kind of oogling around and marveling at the fact that there's nobody driving you. Yeah. And then after that, you just kind of put your head down, look at your phone, and do what you normally do in a car. So I just think that the Jetsons' future is here. It's going to take a while to roll out. Musk has his own robotaxi, but I think something like this could be extraordinarily helpful. And by the way, it could also reduce tens of thousands of fatalities we have every year due to drunk driving.
All right. Here we go. We're now knocking on the door of the opening bell. We've got Netflix going into the open with green candlesticks. We've got Tesla trying to bounce right on the 247. We've got a lot of enthusiasm for the day. Let's see what happens.
Let's take a look at the opening bell here. And the CNBC real-time exchange with the big board, it's Pearl Diver Credit Company celebrating its recent IPO. And at the NASDAQ, NYC Dessert Shop Glace celebrating National Ice Cream Day. As we see markets react to the IT outage, although the picture not as dire as it was earlier today. Still some moderate losses, Sarah, in Europe today. Yields up just a touch.
Yeah, some of the airlines got hit on the disruptions. Not clear what the specific market implications will be of this, as we just heard from George Kurtz, the CEO of CrowdStrike. The fix is on, and it he said, should be immediate in some places and could take hours or more in other places. So when you're thinking about economic impact, hopefully, potentially, it's not as severe as what could be, but obviously exposes a big vulnerability, David, which we were trying to figure out. It's pretty widespread.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a reminder, I think, and we certainly indicated that, of what our adversaries conceivably could do. Of course, it's interesting listening to Mr. Kurtz, whose company...
It's sad is what it is. Sadness.
To prevent those same adversaries from causing such outages, but it does remind you how interconnected we are, as he indicated as well. And just going about your daily life, how many things you do rely on that you may not even realize are connected in somehow to Microsoft in some fashion, for example.
Well, I mean, one stock that is being big time affected is CrowdStrike, which is opening down about 14.5%. Dan Ives published already on the name. Wedbush, he likes CrowdStrike, but obviously, and Jim used this phrase a lot, reputational risk is real here, and that is CrowdStrike becomes a household name across America and the world today, and not for the right reasons, that could open up a competitive advantage, and it is a competitive marketplace for these services. For instance, Palo Alto was up pre-market. That's a big competitor on the cybersecurity space, and we're looking at some of the others as well, higher on the day.
We took note this morning of the Redburn Atlantic analyst who cut CrowdStrike yesterday to sell for reasons completely unrelated, largely about valuation, but it's helping out names like SentinelOne. That's up almost 9% here, as we'll start to talk about potential shifts in market share. Our senior markets commentator, Mike Santoli, is here to talk about either this or the fact that the Dow is on track for the best week since May.
It is. Definitely getting tested, I think, in general on the dip buying reflex all week. So the market has been dealing with this forced rebalancing for about a week, meaning we all knew this was a lopsided market. We all knew it was very concentrated. Everyone was begging for a broadening of the market. And now it's like, well, maybe not this way, where it was essentially massive short squeeze, massive wrong way positioning creates these huge churning moves.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on. All right, so we've got ARM that's actually rotating up to 162, 163 now. We've got some nice green candles coming out of ARM. You've got the chip sector trying to rotate up. I don't know how long this will hold. Chip sector moving up. You got 92, 95, 98 basis points to the downside here on NVIDIA, trying to rotate up. Supermicro is trying to get to the 792 level. Is this the perfect place to short it? Maybe. Then you look at CrowdStrike, which continues to actually no, it's trying to recover now. It's up about it's up to about 13.9 in terms of the downside. Then Joe Biden's campaign chair acknowledges support slippage, but says he's absolutely staying in the race. Yeah, you can absolutely stay in the race and then get smoked in the primary. You could totally get wrecked. So I don't know if I believe them at all. So Supermicro here is trying to recover right here at the 790 level. Pretty big level for Supermicro computers. You do have green coming out of NVIDIA, Supermicro. Cloudflare's struggling. CrowdStrike's trying to recover. The Qs are trying to go green. You've got Tesla down about 66 basis points. Intel down about 2.5. AMD's down about 64 basis points. Enphase falls again. No support for Enphase. Apple only up about 35 basis points. You're getting it's becoming very difficult for some of these to continue to move up, and you're getting a lot more resistance to higher levels. You've got Bitcoin, which is trying to signal some level of bullishness, up about 18 basis points. Netflix rises up as much as 4% after their earnings. Subscriber beat, forecast miss. There goes BT sizzle. Tesla down about 35 basis points, trying to recover here with a big old green candlestick, just as the Qs are trending up. No particular news this morning other than the CrowdStrike hack. Enphase looking for a green candle as well. And you've got the volatility index up about 82 bipidudes. You've got Trade Desk down about 2 basis points. Dave & Buster's down about 80. And if you take a real peek over here at NVIDIA, you're looking at about 69 basis points to the downside. It's trying to find a home here, just as Supermicro is trying to find a bottom. All right, let's listen in here. What do we got about crude? And then I want to look at the inverted yield curve.
Even if they are having a little bit of an earnings rebound, at least on paper, in the next couple of quarters.
Yeah, I mean, Jim has made that point in terms of low quality that you made as well. Like, I mean, when you look through and actually see what you're owning, so to speak, it's not the greatest stuff.
It's not the greatest. It's the kind of thing where you say, well, this economy's been in trouble. It's getting rescued. The Fed's
we're at about negative 27 basis points on the Qs.
Rebound accelerating.
Sorry, on the 210.
And these companies can ride it. That's usually what that means. Now, I don't think that same thing applies to the equal-weighted S&P. or where it's essentially big, better companies, but financials are getting relief. That makes a lot of sense on a bunch of fronts. And then a little more of the cyclically geared companies within the S&P that got a little boost.
And to Sarah's point about the election and sort of economic policy and isolationism, whatever you want to call it, you would want to stick with names that are domestically focused, right?
You would want to. That's the playbook. People are going to execute it. I still think, how many things do you have to get right in sequence for that to play out the way you think, right? You have to bet that the probabilities not only are correct today about the election, but that they're not going to waver along the way and knock that trade-off balance. You have to bet that the election happens that way, the policy prescription happens as expected all the way through. Sure, it works. And by the way, you got one of these in late 2016 after Trump was elected the first time. It didn't set the tone for 4 years. It was like 3 months. And you've had another one of these, small cap outperformance rallies in 2020, and then we gave way quickly to FANG and Mag 7. So I just think it's tough to extrapolate how these things go.
Speaking of FANG, or at least one of the winners on the S&P this morning, though, to a fairly muted response, Netflix. We haven't discussed it yet. 37 minutes into the show after the company reported earnings, of course, after the bell yesterday. We finally will get to Netflix. Stock up a little less than 3%. Typically, we do see bigger reactions in Netflix, whether up or down. The numbers were pretty good. 8 million subscribers overall. That was, certainly above many of the estimates. Ad-supported, you see right there, up 34%, though, frankly, there is a belief that there's still a lot to come yet when it comes to the ad-supported tier in terms of the growth. They did talk as well about the introduction of a new in-house ad tech platform they're going to test in Canada this year and launch more broadly in 2025. Global average revenue per month for the subscriber.
Okay, Tesla's dropping. It's down about 1.4%. You've got the Qs that are trying to hold on. In fact, they're trying to rotate up right now, and so is actually the chip sector. I don't know if the chip sector will actually be able to hold on today. A lot of folks thinking the chip sector is going to trend down today. I don't know if Supermicro or CrowdStrike will end up driving that one down more, but CrowdStrike is recovering right now, as is Supermicro. Supermicro right at that 792 line, and you've got NVIDIA trying to green candle as well as ARM Holdings. Will they hold? That's the big question. But the chip sector's trying to drive the NASDAQ a little bit higher. You've got Tesla, which just had a little bit of a sell down, was down about as much as 1.4%, and has started recovering a bit. NASDAQ recovering positively here, making it look like we might end up having a bullish day. We'll see if that ends up being true. Enphase is down about 33 basis points. ASML is down about 59. Nike's down about 12. Apple rising with a move of almost 1% here in after the opening bell, and the Qs actually signaling a very positive move here on QQQ. Chip sector still rising at the moment. A lot of folks were expecting this to continue to decline. Let's see what happens over the next period of time here. Let's listen in to Shane Sizzle for a moment.
Netflix in the upfront said that 70% of ad-supported members watch at least 10 hours a week. That sounds light relative to the typical Netflix subscriber. So I just wonder if there's not a ton of inventory and not a lot of inventory concentrated in any one place in time, like TV tends to be. And so, you have to be smart about how
that's a big debate right now, is where's all the inventory for potentially advertising. Trade Desk talks a lot about this.
Being able to introduce new technology that is going to optimize.
Read their last earnings call. It's great.
This is probably going to be fairly successful in executing as they do roll out that new ad tech platform. Of course, Amazon does come to mind now in terms of what they've been able to do, obviously on the website itself, but also with Prime rolling out significant ads. I mean, $49 billion worth of
White House spokesperson says the NBC report on Joe Biden's family members discussing an exit is wrong. They say this like every day. It's like every day it's no, we're not exiting. Dude, he's gonna dump.
also been following some of the updates they gave on the live front, which is also sort of a new growth area. I mean, the roast of Tom Brady garnered 22.6 million views and showed the power that they can do this sort of event-style programming, which is a sort of new foray for them. They've got some WWE programming starting in 2025. They announced, in May, the NFL deal. We're going to have the Christmas game and exclusives, the option to pick up another one there. So I think that's also a thread that investors are following. Look, Mike, the lack of the big move in the stock that we typically get for Netflix, it was a winner in the run-up,
huge,
right?
yeah.
Up 30% or so.
Oh, yeah.
Year to
I mean, I
date.
think from the low in
A lot of good
October, it's up like
expectations.
80%.
Right.
So, you're almost back to the old 2021 highs, which is around $700. It's a mid-30s forward PE. So it's obviously kind of fully valued in that NASDAQ 100 stock type mode, in general. So, yeah, there's no doubt that it's already priced in some good stuff.
Yesterday, the chatter on the desks was about the freak out. I think it was B of A called it when we heard they were going to stop sub ads.
Yeah, of course.
And Street got over it,
Yes.
and they were like, will that rear its ugly head? Maybe if revenue misses, which it did a little bit.
Right. Well, they're still reporting them, though.
Yeah,
you have to keep in mind. So
right.
it's more, but that's what you trade. And it was hilarious yesterday in the previews to the numbers, where some of the desks were saying, we're hearing buy-side estimates as much as 9 million net sub ads, and they said, but those survey responses are coming from the bears, because people who want to bet against the stock want to bet that expectations are too high, and it's going to have one of those sell the news responses. It didn't have that. Of course, a very strong sub number.
8 million, which was the
8.3 or
highest in
whatever.
history.
Yeah.
And they raised the revenue
Yeah.
margin guidance and expect the sub growth to continue into Q4, even though they won't be.
Although I
reporting.
do think you have to always keep in mind, when the base of subs is that much higher, it's nice growth, but it's the smaller percentage growth.
Also, some of the pushback was that the sub growth came from the Asia Pacific regions, particularly India, which is considered lower quality growth. That's something that
right,
bears
because it
are
comes at
talking
a
about.
much lower price.
Lower
Right,
margin.
right. How do you value that that type of subscriber, though? Some people put 30 cents on the dollar versus an American subscriber. Who knows?
Also raised its guidance because they continue to see good spending. Steve Scarry, the CEO, said, we continue to attract large numbers of high-quality premium customers with our superior products, as seen in the consistently strong new account acquisitions and 24 consecutive quarters of double-digit growth in card fee revenue we've delivered. I mean, clearly, Amex customers are ones of the higher credit quality, Mike, higher income level, and are continuing their spending. They talked about a little bit of softness in T&E, which is business, travel, and expenses, but
Feels like the
nothing
weakness is
dramatic.
about the marketing spend. They do guide
They boosted
to
it.
an increase as much as 15% this year. On the call, they said it's not, the increase in marketing spend is not related to worries that the consumer would be spending less. But I don't know. Maybe that's part of the general pushback.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a certain sense of urgency they've expressed before about, making sure the franchise lives in a vibrant way among younger consumers. That seems to be working, but maybe they have to, kind of keep up the pressure on that. Another stock, though, that, it's been a big outperformer relative to the other consumer lenders. Let's say over the last 2 years, it's at 18 times earnings. That's kind of high for American Express over the course of its history. It's also an interesting one, always 180 billion market cap. But Buffett owns 21% of it, so there's less stock out there for everybody. So it's not as much of a core bellwether name as you might expect it to be, given it's in the Dow and it's this long-standing kind of blue chip of finance.
also the profits were beat. The revenue was a slight miss.
Slight miss.
Yeah.
They do put in perspective, saying, in terms of year-end revenues, 20.
Okay, all right. Putting all this aside, a few things I'm watching right now. The Qs had a little bit of a rally here. Now they're pulling back. You've got NVIDIA, in fairness, is trying to push the Qs up. It is really trying. I am not convinced the chips are going to hold up today. I think the chips are going to have another down day. It's been a rotation out of the chips the last probably week or so. Not necessarily a bad thing. Probably somewhat healthy. I do think that if we go negative again on the Qs and IWM, I do reiterate that I think there's a reason for concern for the broader market. Now, people get mad at me for saying this. They're like, Kevin, you're usually so bullish. Why are you being bearish? I don't want to say that I'm bearish. I think it's more of a nervousness that if the Qs roll over, and I mean like we're back to 460, 440, 420, unfortunately, it's going to lead to layoffs. And those layoffs, unfortunately, lead to a recession. I really don't want to see that. I think a recession is bad for everyone, and you don't want that. I'm just saying, if you get a market correction with how sensitive the market is right now, you just end up getting whacked. It's my thesis. Could be wrong. Nobody knows. Somebody says, sounds like head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Somebody else says, you ain't seen nothing yet. That's exactly what they want people to feel. More bearish lingo. Well, I mean, yes, that is true. Funny, my legal job says Apple isn't secure, which is why we use SH9 TTY HP laptops, and they can't even get work done this morning. Wah, wah. Where's the small violin? No, okay, that's mean. Anyway, so, yeah, anywho. Okay, so, looks like we had a little red candle there on NVIDIA. You've got CrowdStrike. In fairness, they continue to try to recover here. And let's see what's going on here. So you got CrowdStrike trying to recover. ARM Holdings trying to create a green candle here. Palantir's rotating down. The Qs are rotating down. Remember, one candlestick does not make a trend. Tesla down 1.8%. Netflix goes negative. Though now it's green candling. And green candle on the Qs. Intel's down 3.6. And faces down some bit as well. You've got Apple up about 78 basis points. Volatility index is going up. Coinbase up 2.7% as Bitcoin rises. Almost at 65 there, though getting rejected. Full on reject at 65K. Then we've got the Qs really trying to go positive here. We need some love, say the Qs. I don't think so, says Kevin. Look, there's a real risk that the Qs going negative leads to layoffs. And I don't want to say that, so I'd rather see the Qs go positive. You don't really want joblessness. You don't want a recession. I know some people are like, give it to me. Give it to me. How bad could it be? Oh, trust me, when it comes, you'll all be complaining. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, what? Pete Booty's coming on CNBC? I just saw that there for a moment. Looks like Pete Booty's coming on. Anyway, so where were we? Where were we? Palantir still rotating down. The Qs are trying to recover. Will it blend? Tesla. Big old red candlesticks here, down about 1.7. Will it recover? Q's now up about 11 basis points, leading some of the chip makers to recover as well. Could also be that the chip makers are recovering, hence why the Q's are recovering. Will it hold? I don't know. It's only up about 10 basis points right now. CrowdStrike moving up, honestly. I mean, it's been moving up since the open here. Some people probably bought calls on that sucker right when it opened. But, you know, how could you not buy calls when the CEO tells you, look, man, you want to see our AI? Just unplug your computer and plug it back in. Yes, that is the CrowdStrike artificial intelligence. Nobody knows my intelligence better than you. Oh, wait, that's not what I meant. Anyway, Q's now solidly recovering. Does look like you're getting a little bit of a chips recovery here as well. We'll see if it holds. ARM and Palantir rising. Palantir now positive, 1.5% to the downside on Tesla. Netflix barely positive. AMD's down about 50 bips. Enphase down about 1%. And, yeah, nope. Looks like you're getting a nice green candle coming out of NVIDIA there. And the Q's now up 22 basis points. So, now the question is, will the market continue to rise, or will the market U-turn? We shall see. CrowdStrike actually continues to rise. And you're up about 921 right now. Let's see if it holds. And let's see what other news is. So let's go to the 10-year here. Okay, we have bonds are up again, 4.24 on the 10-year Treasury. Then you've got oil. Oil's down about 75 basis points, and Palantir's up about 50. Chips had a little rally mode there for a brief moment. Let's see if it continues. Tesla's still down about 1%, though it looks like it's trying to create a bottom at 244. Who would have chosen 244? I don't know. But let's listen in over here and see what they have to say about Tesla's rally.
As the latest for us, Leslie, what do we know?
Oh yes, Leslie Picker. Pick me some stocks.
Facing some sporadic disruptions from the global technological outage. Based on many conversations I've had this morning, it sounds like the glitches are largely limited to login issues with a few notable exceptions. I'm told some employees at JP Morgan have been experiencing login issues this morning, particularly with computers.
Yo bro, I can't log in. Hey man, have you tried unplugging your computer and plugging it back in again?
For entire groups. So say if a certain trader wants or couldn't log in, he or she could seek out help from other employees who can. The firm did not lose operational capabilities from the outage. And I've heard that other banks have had similar login issues. I'm waiting for additional confirmation before sharing those specific names. However, a person close to Goldman told me they haven't experienced any major impact.
Palantir is rising nicely, by the way. NVIDIA just went negative again.
ATMs specifically. My understanding is there are manual workarounds for tellers inside branches usually, but there may be some ATMs that aren't working. So keep an eye out on that. Stay close to your bank for potential diversions to other ATMs that are working. And there are some indications I've seen on Twitter that smaller banks and credit unions in the U.S. are having difficulties with their mobile banking, but we are chasing that down too to confirm. I've also reached out to the slew of banking regulators. I'm still waiting to hear back from the FDIC and the OCC, but if—
Bro, they're not awake, Leslie. They are sleeping. They're with Joe Biden in bed.
You know, Leslie, we made this point earlier, of course, that this can occur from a content update, so to speak. One has to wonder what our adversaries really could do if they were focused on actually interrupting our networks. You know, the banks, I mean, just put it in perspective. For example, JP Morgan, I know what they spend simply on defending their own networks and what they spend on making sure, you know, their customers are safe. The numbers are enormous.
I mean, the banking system spends billions of dollars on cybersecurity. I believe that Jamie Dimon has said repeatedly how that is something that truly, you know, keeps him up at night, often just the potential risk for a cybersecurity attack. So this is something that is very top of mind for bank CEOs. And I have to admit, David, when I first saw the headlines earlier this morning, my first thought was, oh no, because of the critical infrastructure and because of the importance of the banking system, that I'm happy to hear that this was not a cyber attack. However, it does show you just the ultimate kind of interconnectivity that the banking system has with technology, and just that this glitch and this bug can ultimately, you know, have such a large impact.
It also reminds me of that comment. Remember when I was talking to Fed Chair Jay Powell just a few weeks ago, and I asked him at the end what was his biggest headache, what keeps him up at night the most as far as a risk potentially for the economy and the unknown, and he said cyber.
Yeah, that was a really interesting moment when you asked him that. He just answered it, first of all.
Yeah. And all this unexpected.
Yeah.
And then he said also finding the right balance between unemployment and inflation.
Yeah, but the cyber is what got everybody's attention.
And I think it comes from talking to CEOs and CEOs of banks Leslie, who maybe not as much on air, but on a lot of our conversations off the record and on background, they do talk about what a major priority this is and what a major, maybe not vulnerability. I feel like the banks are in the best shape because they get attacked a lot and have had to spend so much money beefing up their defenses.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this is not something that's kind of newer in the past few years, a new focus for them. This is something that's been a focus for a long time. I think it also explains, I've talked to some people who kind of run technology divisions within the banks to talk about their AI rollout plans. And it explains kind of why we're seeing this slower rollout of AI use cases at a lot of banks. It's because they have to, number one, make sure that that AI rollout is secure before they can make it kind of more of a thing throughout the entire organization. And so it's ever critical for this industry.
Leslie will monitor it today as the world tries to get back on track. Leslie Picker, such an important story. When we come back, more on CrowdStrike and the global outage in just a moment.
Yes. More picks, Leslie Picker. Thank you. Okay, so I'm watching NVIDIA consolidate right here. I'm also watching Palantir up about 1%. Watching the Qs really struggle to get above a quarter of a percent rather. Tesla's getting rejected literally perfectly by 247.69. You can't make this stuff up. CrowdStrike is starting to roll over. Not a great rollover over here. This could end up affecting the entire market if you end up getting a back to hell moment here in CrowdStrike. Watch it if you got calls on it. You've got Qs only about 17 basis points. Netflix up about 23 basis points. Enphase, wow, tries to go green out of nowhere. Broadcom, after Nancy Pelosi discloses some buys, trying to move up. And look at Bitcoin, 65.4. Then you've got Etsy's down about 3%. Small caps like Affirm down. Dave & Buster's down. Redfin down. Upstart and Robin the Hood up, though. 25 bips on NVIDIA. Supermicro sitting about 44. And the Qs slowly giving up some of that quarter of a basis point. Quarter of a percent, rather, again. Sitting at about 11 now. 11 basis points. With NVIDIA now down a third. ARM Holdings. Nice little red candle there on ARM. And Palantir starting to rotate down. IWM and the Qs all rotating down intra-minute here. Tesla down about 1.3. And Enphase turns negative with Apple unwilling to get past the 1% level. CrowdStrike tries to continue its upside swing. CrowdStrike only down about 9% right now. In the pre-market, it was down as much as 14%. Okay.
Selling spree. Poopy doopy.
Yeah, almost down 10% again here. As the Qs are about to go negative. Oh!
Lost the lead.
Yeah, it's basically zero right now. Yeah. Need some more. I need, like, some FUD here. How about, let's go to sad.
The House of Pain.
You're wrong. Big L. Reaming spree.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. Oh, it's Elvis. That's what he was. Okay, I just saw Fox News say Trump was basically mirroring Elvis with those lights. Interesting. I saw some people say that in the comments yesterday, and I was like, I knew he was doing a throwback to some decade, but I couldn't figure out what that throwback was. Dang it. I should have known. I could have been somebody. Kiran Ford, or whatever your name is, says, I told you. Somebody else says, hanging and banging. Oh. In 90% cash. Let's go. Work in Silicon Valley. Oh, I was just in San Jose looking at real estate yesterday. Yeah, San Jose changes a lot real fast. Work in Silicon Valley. Last few days I've been seeing Trump tents selling merch popping up near Stanford. Ooh. Where's your ear bandage? Yes. Yeah, where's your consolidarity, bro? What else here? Freeing up a little cash today, says Wally. Let's go, let's go. I'ma harvest your kidney, says someone else. Somebody else says, there will be no Biden announcement before it's time. Dems want a plan so they look less goofy. Oh, for sure. Faux show. Yes. Thoughts on the broad market if Biden drops out? Chaos? Question mark. No. I don't actually think you'll have chaos if Biden drops out. I do actually think the market will probably turn red if Biden drops out. The rationale for that is you have to price in the chance of a Trump loss. Like right now, you're basically only pricing in a Trump win. And when you're only pricing in a Trump win, and then you have to start pricing in a Trump loss, you end up having to see some form of selling in L markets. Just saying. It's practically what I think is going to end up happening. So, but no, I don't think you'll end up having chaos. What do we got here?
Saying this is not a hack or a cyber attack.
Right, no, you just got to restart your computer, bro.
This outage, the update has been rolled back and a fix has been deployed. They said some are already seeing their systems recover, but it is unclear when everything is going to be back online. CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz said in an interview with us last hour, not everyone's system is just going to fix automatically. You may actually need individual IT workers to manually reboot systems. We're seeing that right now.
Tesla down about 2.25% right now.
Going at it. Kurtz also said it could be many more hours before everything is totally resolved. Microsoft also putting the blame on CrowdStrike here, saying on its support page, the CrowdStrike update forced those Windows devices to get stuck in a rebooting loop. Department of Homeland Security told us in a statement it's working with CrowdStrike and Microsoft to assess the outages. National Security Council also told us it's monitoring the situation. President Biden has been briefed as well. Meantime, shares of rival cybersecurity names like SentinelOne and Palo Alto Networks are up this morning. Shares of CrowdStrike down about 10% or so. Waiting for more updates from both CrowdStrike and Microsoft, though, when everything is going to come back online. But we're really looking after that, what went wrong and how this can get prevented again, guys.
Yeah.
As well of how widespread CrowdStrike is deployed and or obviously Microsoft, of course, is widely deployed. Or could we expect something similar to have occurred with one of the other cybersecurity firms in an update if it had gone awry?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell, but I mean, you choose one platform to go with, David, and you know, if something happens on that, then the entire system cascades and goes down. We're learning today there are a lot of CrowdStrike customers out there, and of course, corporate America and corporations just tend to prefer using Windows PCs over Mac and alternative operating systems. I will note that CrowdStrike is saying customers that use Mac or Linux or another operating system, they're just fine. This is specifically for Windows, but of course, Windows is the market leader here within corporate America, and that is why we're seeing
just restart it, bro.
A collapse here across so many systems, David.
Steve, we mentioned this Goldman report out a few moments ago where they stick with their $400 target on CrowdStrike. They refer to the Okta breach a couple of years ago, where they argued the result really in terms of client base was maybe clients taking a little more time, elongating the sales cycle to make sure everything was good, but the churn wasn't that dramatic in the end.
Yeah, and that becomes a question of also where you go. Like Microsoft, of course, does offer its own cybersecurity services. I mentioned some of the other names that are rising today on the hope that maybe they'll take some business away from CrowdStrike, but it's really unclear. And I will also note it could have been worse. That note that you just mentioned could have been worse if it was, in fact, a hack, because that is what CrowdStrike is supposed to do, protect against these cybersecurity events. That's not what's happening here. This was just this was a mistake, a bad mistake, to be clear, but it also shows what could happen if a nefarious actor did get in and was able to get into these systems and cause some damage.
Yeah, that's the worry, Steve. Thank you. And David, talking to some of the cybersecurity sources and experts in my life, and I'm told CrowdStrike is unique.
Experts in your life.
You need some cyber experts in your life. That CrowdStrike is unique in their operational impact on the world.
Fine,
Apparently, they have their agents on a huge portion of the industry, which I don't know exactly what that means, but I guess the firewall companies, like competitors, like a Checkpoint, for instance, or a Wiz, it's not exactly the same thing. When they push updates, it's not the same kind of vulnerability as what we saw with CrowdStrike, which explains maybe some of the size and scope here. Dom Chu's been tracking the action when it comes to the impact for other cybersecurity names, some of which...
Yeah, whatever. The Qs are actually recovering right now. You had a little bit of a sell-off here, and now you're getting some green candles coming back to the Qs. Netflix down about 41 basis points. Software, the chip sector, by the way, on the triple leverage down about 2.9. In other words, then the short SOX here is up about 2.7. You've got Cloudflare now up about 1.4. NVIDIA is recovering right here. Watch this carefully right here. NVIDIA recovering. Q's recovering. We don't know how long that will be sustained. But look at that Dell rally. You've really had Dell moving up since the start of the day here. As well as Palantir, both Dell and Palantir moving up. IWM and the Qs now positive, slowing down a little bit on NVIDIA. CrowdStrike still stuck around 9%, and the Qs are still at 9 basis points to the upside actually now. You've got Tesla trying to rebound with a bounce at 243. 243. And hospitals around the world are hobbled by massive tech outage. Oh, God. Yeah, well, people are going to be upset about this one. As I just clicked away there, it looked like I got a red candle on Tesla coming through, down about 2.35%, as well as the Q's holding on to about 5 bips, though it doesn't feel very robust. I'm not trying to suggest the market's going to go bust, but it doesn't seem like today the trend is in favor of the Qs actually holding up. We'll see. Up about 8 basis points now, just like the IWM. ARM, in fairness, though, is rotating up nicely. It's been rotating up since about 160. And if you jump on into BT Sizzle, you're at about to hit a new high for the intraday market open period of 65,395, trending up. Alrighty then, let's try the Doomers. Oh, it's not working. What? 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 I don't know why all of a sudden the battery cover was uncovered. There we go. Now we can look at the Doomers. Doomer boomers. Oh, there you go. Look at that. BTC. Touching the mouse. Always use the mouse. All right. Let's listen to it right here.
They still are looking to the treasury market for that bit of safety. Gold, I think, has become another really interesting trade. We don't love it as a strategic asset class, but clearly people are using that as a way of hedging these different types of risks.
All right, Kara, it's great to speak with you. Really appreciate you taking time on a Friday. That, of course, is Kara Murphy of Kestra Investment Management. Let's get a look at what's moving underneath the hood right now. We're going to do that with Abigail Doolittle.
Well, of course, Katie, we have to take a look at these stocks that are affected or were a source of the global IT outage. So first, CrowdStrike, and it was their upgrade or changing around the technology on the Microsoft operating system Windows that created this outage. And you can see both of these shares down. Well, not so much. Microsoft is coming back from an almost 2% decline, but CrowdStrike is down 9%, well off of its lows. At one point overnight, it was down, or in early trading, it was down 21%. On the week, it is still down sharply. sharply, the worst week since November of 2022. As for some of the companies affected, McDonald's, those shares down 1.3%. They've suspended operations in 30% of their stores in Japan. The London Stock Exchange right now in London trading down about 0.75%. Their news feed was disrupted. And then, of course, airlines, that's where we're really hearing about the pain. 16,000 flights may have been affected. Both of these shares, American and Delta, are down. Let's take a look at the airlines most affected. This was a little bit surprising because United seemed to be the airline addressing it most quickly, but it actually, Delta, the flight cancellations the most, 477, followed by American, United, Endeavor, and then KLM there. Lots happening on this Friday, and this global IT outage, certainly a big piece of the story.
Absolutely. Abigail Doodle, thank you so much. Now, coming up, President Biden is facing unprecedented pressure to drop out of the 2024 race. We get the latest next. This is Bloomberg.
Very interesting. ARM keeps rising right now. It had a really nice run there from about 160, now up to about 163. And so I'm watching what's going on with ARM. I'm also watching the Qs that are only up about 4 basis points right now. So not a big move here at all, actually, in the Qs. And I'm watching NVIDIA start red candling a little bit. And Cloudflare's up about 1%. CrowdStrike's still down about 9.2. And then, of course, you have Netflix down about 40 basis points. Dell's now rotating down. So far, Palantir is still trying to run back to 29.29. Let's see if it can end up holding it. Big red candle there on some of the chip plays. And IWM's up 24 basis points. As at the same time, the Qs go negative again, with Tesla now down about 2.6%. And the Qs losing lead once again.
Lost the lead.
So with that, it is time to head on over to the course member live stream. I hope to see you there. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services which we may benefit from. I personally operate and actively manage ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Watch those red candlesticks. All right, folks, we'll see you in the course member live stream. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.